Two people. Two.
Right?
It's not solo night anymore.
We're so sorry.
I hope you enjoyed your solo opportunity last week. Thank you for holding down the fort.
It was fine. I mean, you apparently had other things to do, like, have a heart attack.
Not literally. Not literally. Brian's here. Ahoy, Brian. If you're here, feel free to say hi. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. I'm Lucas. This is David. And I'm convinced by the numbers that I see that there's like at least a new random person that watches live or goes back and sees this. So I always feel it necessary, each week, I feel it necessary to point out the nature of the beast. So if you could sit at a table at a local craft brewery with a couple of leftist assholes that are truly lovable teddy bears on the inside and listen to them get progressively more unfiltered as they get progressively more inebriated, that would be the table that you're sitting at now here in the virtual realm. So the nature of our relationship has been such that we pontificate on current events and sip from our mugs, cans, steins, glasses, snifters, skin, drinking skins, flasks. What else could we?
Horns, drinking horns.
Drinking horns, that's another one. Yes. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to pipe up with any kind of comment or question you may have. Please remember that those come a little behind in timing because internet. So if you think we ignored you, we try to go back and snag things when they pop up late. But sometimes they don't all get in the right order, and it just doesn't work. But we appreciate the people that contribute to the discussion. And with that, we'll do a little catching up. David, you hanging in there?
Yeah, I am. I finally earned my turn in Facebook jail.
Yes, David got Facebook jailed for 24 hours, and he was deeply offended.
I was.
Yeah, I forgot how it felt the first time it happened to me, and then David's over here grousing like, "Do we have to use it? I want to leave it. I want to get all the way off the platform. Fuck these bastards!" And I'm just like, "Rookie."
And for those of you who want to hear the story, yeah, right. For those of you who want to hear the story, so after the New York Young Republicans debacle, where someone took after Herschel Walker's son Chris, and he started spilling tea about the extramarital affairs that keep on happening at these things, someone went to go grab a couple of screenshots from one of these guys who had
one of
decided
us got one.
Right. One of these guys who had taken after him, and it was, which one of these were you going to use as your campaign poster? The one of you wearing a swastika armband, or the one of you on your OnlyFans peeing in your own mouth? Mm-hmm. And apparently Facebook called it revenge porn. And I'm like, I also learned a lesson, always appeal, but on its face, I'm like, you know what? That's fair.
Well, it's funny because David, I wasn't paying attention. He pops up and says, "Sorry, I got the page in trouble," and I was like, "What?" and so I he showed me the thing, and I thought it would have been that he got dinged for posting, because this was a screenshot of another post. This was not a direct post. This was a screenshot of another post, and I would have thought that he got in trouble for the Nazi imagery. And it turns out that it was the pixelated, but guy peeing in his own mouth imagery, and that just cracks me up.
Which
David's
he was doing it
to Facebook jail, so he didn't know that you always appeal, and then maybe they'll let it fly, or at least they'll say no, sorry. And I don't know if it behaves differently, or if you still end up in the same.
I gotta say though, that was kind of impressive because he was peeing directly up. I mean, that's a lot of bladder pressure. I don't know what to say about that.
Asshole, the fucker in the pictures.
He was a pro-Trump candidate for U.S. representative on Staten Island. Of course, okay. Staten Island.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Brian points out vertical peeing. Young men can do that. Apparently, something else young men can do, and I promised that I would explain more of this. Something else young men can do is have fewer afibrillations. So between people that know us and watch this stream and people that don't, and all points in between, I had professed in our show description tonight that I would go ahead and explain what happened to me. Now, it wasn't Thursday. I didn't do the show Thursday because I was trying to do parent things. Parent things being going to the kids' band concert. Unfortunately, Thursday morning at 9 a.m., I was asked if I would sit in and help in the band concert covering some percussion instruments. So I spent a lot of the day on Thursday stressed out and thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I feel like I really have to do this. I should do this. I don't want to do this. And I was just in this constant loop. So when it came time, I ended up at the story about Friday that you're going to hear. When it came time to retell all the stresses of my life, the question came up, I wonder how much Thursday's experience stressed me out. But it actually turned out to be quite fun, even though it was really weird to be back in the back row of a high school band playing random percussion instruments for Christmas songs. I learned 3 things. 1, no one knows if you screwed up. 2, no one knows if the kids screw up, and they're apparently making shit up all the time. Back in the back. And then 3, it's a lot harder to remember some of these little things than I thought it was. Like, all I had to do was play like jingle bells, like sleigh bells, and wind chimes and other random shit. And some things, the technique escaped me, like the triangle. First time I hit it, I was like, oh, that was quiet and weird. It took a couple, like, oh, now there it is. There's the sound. Everybody thinks it's just smacking stuff in whatever way, but there's actually a lot of technique that makes a difference. So anyway, go forward to Friday afternoon. I picked the kid up, parked the car in front of the house because I had plans Friday evening. I was going to leave again in 2 hours, and came in the house, took off my coat, trotted up here to where you see me in the office in this chair. And I thought, man, I didn't really do any physical activity just now. I run up the stairs all the time, all day long. I trot up the stairs to my office. It's it's where we live. It's where we work. But my heart rate was just like crazy. So I could actually see my chest move in weird, crazy ways. And it did not feel right. And I started testing it. My watch hadn't alerted me because I believe running up the stairs from outside, running up the stairs inside, the watch probably thought I was just running up some stairs, and it wouldn't immediately freak out and say, hey, you got a high heart rate. And then I started testing it over and over again. And I was getting a heart rate of like 180, 185, 192, 197, 183, 208. And I'm like, this isn't right. So I contacted a family member that is a nurse, and I said, I'm thinking about going to the ER, but I don't want to be one of those people that uses it for no good reason. So here's what's going on. And she asked me a couple questions, and she said, no, go ahead and go. And she told me what she thought was going on. She said what they would probably do. She mentioned that they would use some drugs that slow down your heart rate, and that might fix it. And she mentioned something that related to the idea of putting pressure on my chest, but I don't remember what the word was. The thing that she didn't mention is that one thing they can do is fire a man-made lightning bolt through you and reset your heart. It might be that she didn't mention that because she didn't want to freak me out, but she did neglect to mention that detail. It is called a cardiovert, which sounds very technical and very high-minded. It is basically the crash cart plugged into your front and back, and they do the same thing they would if you were lying there flatlining. So,
which they don't actually do that if you're flatlining, by the way.
Well, they don't do that version, but it's the same machine. It's the
Well,
clear.
no, I mean,
it's the
no, I mean,
clear thump machine.
yeah. Well, the thing is, they only do that in TV shows. If your heart is actually stopped, like in reality, they hit you with adrenaline, and then try and massage your heart to start beating again. They can't really shock you back into,
Fair
heart
enough.
beating.
So this, so the, it's standard, emergency room process, and you get checked in vitals. They didn't have, they didn't ask me yet what was going on. They just started checking all the numbers, and I said, "Oh, well, you're about to see all the reasons I'm here, because as soon as you see the heart rate, you're going to know why I'm here." So, the discussion was, we could give you a prescription for a couple more drugs, and you could go home and you could take these drugs and see if things calm down. But we typically do, it pretty common, apparently, is the Cardiovert. And it still does not sound great, even though they tell you, oh, we do it all the time. It's kind of like, well, Evel Knievel jumped over buses all the time, too. So, there's a risk, a certain amount of risk to it, but it was not really too bad. They put you out because apparently it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize it had taken place yet. I was talking and turned my head one direction, and in my mind, I had just turned my head the other direction, started talking to somebody, and it was already done. And it was, oh, you're finished. Like, it was 3 to 5 minutes. I didn't have to experience the hurt part of it, but essentially it reboots, resets, and resynchronizes your heart. The funny part to me was the pressure that was mentioned by the cousin that I consulted did happen. According to the nurse, the doctor put all of his weight up on me, on his hands, to hold the front pad down to make sure I got all of the jolt, to quote the nurse. And currently, that's what hurts, is there's bruising and all kinds of like owie that I can feel under the surface right here along my ribs. And there's a tiny little circle because, having eczema already, why don't we fire electricity through your skin and see how that goes? So I have itchy circles, like one on my back and one on the front. But she said that some people can get like a solid sunburn circle from it. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, so that was the adventure. For a few days, I took it easy. Didn't drink any beer. I had one shandy of like a 2% grapefruit shandy with dinner on Tuesday, and took it really easy. And I got lots of sleep, and I wore my watch like all night so that it could wake me up if it freaked out again. And then I saw a cardiac clinic yesterday. And basically everything's fine. I don't have to change anything. I just need to get more exercise and have a echocardiogram. No, not an echocardiogram. What do I need to have? I need to have what the hell? The ultrasound thing. I can't think of the name of the thing now, but I have an appointment for a thing. And then we'll keep an eye on things. Like they have me currently in the category of live life normally, do everything you always do, don't stop doing anything that you already did. You didn't drink to enough excess that's why, and you certainly aren't an athletic person pushing your body to the limit. So that's not it. So they ruled out a lot of stuff. She said you don't check any of the red flags. You don't have all any of the risk factors that we look for any other big things, and it could never happen again, or it could happen again someday. But now you've been through it. Now you understand it. Now you know what it is. Now you have a phone number you can call us, and we can walk you through whether or not you should come and do anything, or if you should do a home thing or whatever. So they were pretty specific in saying, like, this is not a life-threatening condition. It's just freaky. And I said, well, yeah, it's freaky. Thank you. Yes. Noticed that. Stress can play a part in it. So, we'll pay attention to some of that. So there could be a joke to be made that filling in with the kids' school band put me in the hospital, but that's probably not it, especially for those that know.
You should just completely use it as an
family
excuse,
drama.
though, the rest of the time. Be like, listen, the last time I did this thing, I ended up in the ER. You're going to have to pay me.
The reason that I had to be there and help, I didn't have to. I could have said no, but she asked me and a band director here in town that's a friend of hers, and we both filled in. Now, the difference was I got the music 2 hours in advance and went and had a beer and looked at the music and kind of tried to learn through it. Her friend literally showed up and sight read music live in person as soon as she arrived, which good for her. But she's an actual, practicing musician, so you can do that. The reason that we were needed is 2 of the kids had gotten suspended right before the Christmas concert, so their slots were not filled. So the fun part is I do work with these percussion kids a little bit as kind of a volunteer parent, den mother to the drumline. And one of those kids is the clown that gets in trouble. And I'm totally going to tell him that he put me in the hospital by being absent. I totally decided that's where we're going to go.
That's right. Give the kid a serious complex now.
Right, exactly.
Be like,
That's
this is what happens. This is what happens when you fuck up.
There are multiple contributing factors to the stress element, which is one of multiple contributing factors. And there are much, as you well know, as a person that knows a little more of my personal business that I don't broadcast, I have plenty of other reasons for stress and drama that would provide bigger opportunities than a one-time band concert event. So I'm
just saying, you can use it as an excuse right there.
The political stuff is not necessarily that stressful, but boy, did I test my heart rate a lot this past week. Every time I spoke at the commission, I checked it just to see where we at. And when I ran up the stairs while working downtown, I'd done a brisk walk to lunch around the block, and then ran up the stairs, sit back down, and check the watch again and see what. And it's interesting to see that stuff, but oh boy, when the top chambers are going wild and the bottom chambers are like, "Excuse me," and that's where we were, and that reads real weird on the little readout. So it can go like blip, 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 and then blip, 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 blip. It's just crazy. So that was an experience, and I have spent some time in some headspace, as one might imagine, about this kind of thing. So there it is. One recorded video explanation of what the fuck happened to Lucas last Friday, so that I can refer other people back to it and not have to tell the story 300 times. And now that we're done with the intros and check-ins, we do a thing called Hot Take Happy Hour.
Yeah.
David turned the graphic back on.
Oh, sorry.
Get out of the way. So, what we do at the top of the show is we try to talk about a few things that pop up. A little bit of it is, stuff we sat on, and a little bit of it is, oh shit, that happened today. And we call this the Hot Take Happy Hour. We keep a couple of things, in our head to say, and we keep it shorter than the big topics. And then coming up, our main topic will be the next thing we go into, and that is the Jesus excuse, the get out of jail free card, as it were, or not even go to jail card.
Yeah, that's the problem. Not even go to jail.
And we're going to talk a little bit about all of these whiny, unrealistic fuckwits that are pissy that we didn't focus on getting the miserably failed Kmart Blue Light Special spy that was kicked out of the Marines out.
He's so bad. I mean, literally. Oh God, we'll get into it later. It's so good.
Off the reefer madness of Russia. So, anyway, let's jump right in. David, you provided most of these, so I'm gonna have you do the heavy lifting intro.
Yeah, that's fair. So the first one is so I'm sure all of us have heard about venues that typically hosted drag shows are now being attacked, being threatened. And it's come to Nashville here as well. Diskin is primarily a cider brewery. They make a ton of different ciders. They are a wonderful local brewery. They have, at least as far as I've worked for breweries here in town, I am hard-pressed to think of one. Jackalope, I know, has done a lot of community outreach. Yazoo kind of does. But at least in terms for their size, Diskin does an immense amount of heavy lifting. for the size of brewery that they are for community outreach. And one of the things that they've been doing has been a weekly drag show. We talked to.
It sounds really fun considering their name is so comical already. Like, I just love that they. I mean, I don't think this is why, but Diskin Ciders is a name that you can only say right for a certain amount of time until you're too drunk, and it's always Dixon Cider. And, hosting drag at the Dixon Cider place is just perfect.
Right. And we talked about this a little. Like, should we get some Dixon cider? Yeah, I went there. Should we get some Dixon cider to drink on the show in solidarity? And we decided not to, and I'm going to explain why. So, Dixon cider got threatened with violence this week for hosting their drag show. They decided to cancel the show. And here's the thing. On one hand, I definitely understand why. And we first of all, our hearts go out to the owners and the operators and all the employees of Disc Cider for now being under threat by these people, by domestic terrorists.
Right. Let's get that right, because they still haven't really named that the right way in the very relatable topic of these electric substations in the Carolinas that got attacked by basically the same crowd, I don't want no drag show crowd, and they went and I'm going to keep saying until somebody says it's proven wrong that that's what happened. That's why they did it.
Well, no, I mean the thing is all evidence points to that way, except in our apologist media,
right?
And it is apologist because they don't want to call. They have so many media outlets have a hard time calling white people terrorists. They really do.
Yeah, they do.
And that's what these people have become. So Disc Cider got these terroristic threats, and as a consequence, they decided to shut down the drag show. And again, we entirely understand why. They looked at the situation and they said, we need to protect the lives and safety of our employees. And we completely understand that. We decided not to have their cider on the show today for this reason. That is entirely understandable. That is a laudable moment to put the lives of your employees first. However, in light of what's going on in the country right now, the problem that you run into is who's going to stand up to these people? Someone has got to stand up to these people. And I understand them not wanting to be the ones that put themselves in harm's way or could potentially be in harm's way standing up to them. But at a certain point, we've got to stop this. You've got to punch the bully in the nose. And I think we would have been very much behind Diskin if they had decided to go forward with it and say, no, we're not going to be terrorized. We're not going to be made afraid. I mean, I remember after 9/11, like all these statements that kept on again and again and again. The terrorists win when we change our behavior because we're afraid of them. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're changing our behavior because we're afraid of them. And again, my heart goes out to Disc Cider. My heart goes out to all their employees, to their owners who hope, I hope that this decision to cancel this drag show was fraught. But
well, and it's also like you've got multiple parties involved in that choice. So whoever's doing the show could make a big impact on saying, I'm just not going to do the show.
Yeah.
So there are multiple parties involved in that. My answer, of course, since we all know that I'm a fucking wrecking ball, is if there were budget to do so, I'd have just hired as I like to quote so often from Pulp Fiction, a bunch of hard pipe-hitting motherfuckers to work the door, equipped with some wands or an arch, and basically dare any of these fuckers to do anything, and then beat the ever-loving shit piss out of them if they did.
Well, and the thing is, every time people stand up to these guys, they run away. Every time, and this is the thing that we have to remember, when these terrorists try and threaten our communities, when people stand up to them, they run away because they are cowards. Their entire philosophy of the world is based around their cowardice. Listen, I'm not gay, but you know what? I'm also not afraid of gay people. I don't think gay people are groomers. I mean, I am not necessarily a frequent consumer of drag shows, but on the other hand, I'm not afraid of drag shows. I don't think drag shows are out there grooming children. I do not subscribe to a worldview that is so afraid of gay people that we have to constantly be afraid of them. Oh, they can't marry. Why not? What is it? What are you afraid of that they're doing? They are not doing anything. In fact, if
people don't like the idea of losing their exceptionalism.
If we look at the people who are regularly grooming and abusing children, they are overwhelmingly heterosexual. They are overwhelmingly conservative.
They're also overwhelmingly working in churches. But hey,
that's not true.
I know.
But that's not true. Church. But no, I mean the church thing isn't true. But I mean, in many cases, they you know, I understand the statement of fear is just a mask for bigotry. I would argue that it's in many cases is the opposite. It's the fear that promotes the bigotry. Very often when we do studies about why white people are afraid of black people, or why white people are bigoted against black people, it's fear. It's regularly fear, and fear promotes the bigotry. The bigotry doesn't come first. The fear comes first, and then the bigotry comes later. I think a lot of these people are afraid of gay people. Maybe they're just afraid of their own sexuality. I don't know.
Well, it depends on what airports they hang out in.
Oh, Senator Craig.
I'm never going to let that go. It's going to be one of my favorite all-time greatest hits Republican hypocrisy gay moments. But yeah, I think, you know, there is definitely some balance that could be struck. And I think we really need to make sure that we're fostering a society of standing up. Next up, you've got population decline listed, which I have a feeling might cause an argument here because I'm a big fan of stopping with the popping out of babies.
Well, okay. And I can understand that, except for the fact that the population has been in decline for a long time. The only place where population is seriously increasing is, ironically, in the developing world. Population in the developed world, on the other hand, is in many cases declining significantly. The United States is the only exception, and that's because we have such liberal immigration policies. But if you look at Germany, if you look at the United Kingdom, if you look at Spain, a lot of these populations are in serious decline. And so the reason I brought this up is apparently the Japanese diet is nearly in panic mode because their census department basically showed up and said, hey, by the way, we're literally on the cusp of fucking dying. All of us. You goddamn sons of bitches. You wanted us to go and count people. Well, we keep on counting them, and their job is getting fucking easier.
So what's the problem? They're not populating for replacement.
The problem is that it's been identified, and this is why I brought this up, is Japanese capitalism. Uh-huh. And this is the big issue that they're having, which is, you have to be more productive. Uh-huh. And so you're working 50, 60 hours a week. Like, I can say honestly right now, working my schedule, having a kid would be hard, mm-hmm. right? Because I work a minimum 50 hours a week. That's pretty much my minimum. I probably work about 55. On a really slow week, I may work like 48, 47 hours a week. But for the most part, I work 50 hours a week. And that's not at home. They have to be on site.
Yeah.
I can't do my job remotely.
Yeah.
Which, believe me, I just absolutely love. That's the word. But the problem is that there's no possible way for anyone in a fertile window, especially women, to bear children. And on top of it, a lot of women in Japan have said, so wait, I marry a guy, and then he's gone for 70, 80 hours a week. Oh, and by the way, because of Japanese work culture, I also don't work anymore. Mm-hmm. I usually get fired for being married. Why would I have kids? I mean, it's become
almost like a late arrival to a bit of the revolution that America saw in women, just basically putting their foot down and saying, I could be a working mom, and that's how this is going to go. Or,
well, a lot of women, that's the thing. The only place where they're seeing women have kids is that working mom scenario. But the problem is that when women look at the state of working moms in Japan, most working moms can only get minimum wage jobs. And the truth is, at least in a lot of even in America, working moms get paid drastically less. Oh. And the problem is that...
Well, I mean, we have a general problem with income inequality. I mean, on top of that...
But especially for working moms.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I can see why maybe I should care about Japan, but I'm still not convinced I give a fuck about the U.S. when it comes to population, because we spend all of our research and development and economic time trying to figure out how to eliminate humans from the process of conducting commerce or manufacturing or anything. And so I'm not compelled to believe that we all need to replace even ourselves. I do double ourselves.
I do want to point out, however, that most of those attempts have failed epically. And Japan, look at Japan. Japan is a perfect example. Oh, we have a technological, hyper-industrialized society, and yet we still have the vast majority of our population working 70 hours a week. What does that tell you about replacing people? Well, it's a boondoggle. It's a pipe dream.
Japan has a cultural problem with work. It goes beyond productivity. It goes beyond automation and replacing people. Japan has a fundamental cultural problem with rotting in the office for way too many fucking hours for absolutely no reason.
Oh yeah.
So,
but
I mean, fighting a completely different battle when it comes to this topic in a lot of ways, I would think, because Americans are very much about whistle blew, I'm out. And
no, but that's not what the company wants, is it? The company wants you to stay and work. The company wants you to keep on being productive. Again, I have to stay and be productive, right?
Only if it's cheap and benefits the shareholders / owner profits. Like, no one wants you to stay if you're costing money. Only if your staying is a negative equation for you and a positive equation for the fat cat greedy motherfuckers in charge. Is it ever encouraged in American culture for you to stay and keep working?
That is actually very true. I think, but again, it's time to recognize that one of the downsides of developing culture is, or developing economics, and there's an interesting paper put out that called on developed nations to de-develop and to stop pursuing growth of productivity because it's actually killing them.
Interesting.
And as they pointed out, it's harming a lot of things. It harms the environment. It harms population. It's doing a lot of awful things, and so it's something that I've gotten into arguments with people before about, like, oh, the world is overpopulating itself. No, it's not. If you look at every place that finally develops, right, then the population crashes. Russia right now, which finally figured out how to kind of develop its cities, can't even pay people enough to have kids. They have entire week-long celebrations where they're just like, I will shove money down your throat to have more babies. Because their population is in Russia's population is in complete free fall. Germany's population is in dramatic decline. The UK's population is in dramatic decline, at least in terms of countries that are growing population. France is doing okay. But again, a lot of that has to do with, ironically, illegal immigration. Italy's doing okay, again, because of illegal immigration. But Greece, Spain, Hungary, you've got a bunch of angry Nazi Magyars wandering around. They're like county-sized country, and you're looking around going, okay, you're very invested in being Magyars. Good job. Babies? Oh, okay, maybe not so much. What do you say to that? Like, we have. I think there comes a point where we need to start acknowledging that there is, we aren't quite towards children of men territory. I mean, at least I haven't seen the British Army wandering around random slums yet. It's a movie reference. Go watch it. It's fun. But I mean, we are heading towards a point where if there's less people, significantly less people being born than are older, then you begin to flip the script about how civilization works. Because now you have a problem where you have the only people capable of producing things rapidly and effectively trying to support more and more people who can't, which means, the Republicans constantly talk about death panels. Fuck death panels. We're going to be in Logan's Run.
I think I see what you're saying. It's hard for me because I have so many resentful pieces of observation. I'm always frustrated. I'm anywhere from frustrated to disgusted. And I bet the equation is inverted for me versus the average white nationalist redneck prick. When I see a whole bunch of fucking white kids pile out of an SUV, I'm disgusted. Because my mind immediately says, quit. Stop at 2, maybe 3. Quit it. And then, of course, there's that whole insurance topic. I just renewed my benefits today, and the disgusting look at the family rate being the same no matter how many goddamn rugrats you bog the system down with.
Hey, you know what? That's the only progressive thing that your insurance company does. Good for you. I remember.
What? No, that's not progressive. That's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's not progressive. You should have to fucking pay per child. God damn it.
That's progressive. That's progressive.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Nope. And I don't want to hear any of these fucking rednecks talking about socialism. Yeah, fuckers. Okay. Well, in the average work pool for insurance, a lot of us that chose not to get genetically greedy are supporting all your fucking kids because we all get to pay the same fucking family rate regardless of how many times we popped out one. So
well,
that
is socialism. That's good.
It is socialism.
That's a good.
I don't like this particular version of it. I don't understand why you would like this particular version of it, because you're a single guy who should go to the doctor's office and wade through the fewest amount of crotch fruit he possibly can. And that doesn't happen when we have
I support humanity. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, me too. I support humanity.
Kids should have health care. I pay taxes, and I would pay more taxes for everyone to have health care, including all those kids. I'm like, it's one of those things where you're like, you don't get to pick a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B here. It's just one of those. I'm
picking. We should have public fucking health care, but if we're going to play this bullshit medical health insurance industrial complex fucking game, then we should be able to take people that are perfectly goddamn capable of paying for it and make them pay per child. I'm not talking about punishing low-income people. I'm talking about taking fucking executives that have 7 goddamn kids and get the same fucking rate that they're
looking at you, you poor fuck.
Anyway, But it is a complex topic. You're right. It's got a lot of influences. Let's shift gears. Speaking of kids that never should have been born, this motherfucker that they apprehended for this whole Ponzi scheme crypto thing.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I sprung this on Lucas. He had already put this in. He had already put up the hot takes, and I remembered that we talked about putting this in the hot take happy hour. And I'm like, I'm gonna sneak this in while Lucas is talking about his nearly life threatening heart event. So for those of you who don't know, FTX was a major exchange of cryptocurrency. This guy. Bateman, whatever the hell his name is, I forget now.
Bankman-Fried.
Bankman-Fried. It was like it's either Friedman or Bankman. I just kind of combined them.
It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't. I mean, because it's another crypto bro.
Like, yeah.
Just like Archer, just like all these other massive giant crypto Ponzi schemes. What did he do? He took investors' money and then he tried to go make more money by stealing out of their accounts, just like every other crypto fund. All of them do this. I don't understand why people don't get why this is all a Ponzi scheme. And to give you an example, I don't know if I've used this example before, but it's my favorite example of how crypto is actually working right now. And how it originally, I really feel like it was designed to do this. So you get a guy who shows up to a village, right? And he says, I'll pay you $5 for every monkey that you bring me. And so the villagers go out and they gather up a whole bunch of monkeys and they sell them to this guy for $5. And he says, well, there seems to be less monkeys, so I guess I've got to increase my rate to $10. $10 per monkey. And, they go out and get some more monkeys and they get more money. And so he says, well, there's even less monkeys now. I'll give you $20 per monkey. And people go out and they go find the last monkeys that they can possibly find. And they bring them to this guy and they sell them. And he's like, I still need more monkeys. But I have to go back to the city. When I get back, I'll pay you $50 per monkey. And so he leaves. And the guy's assistant says, here's what I'll do. I'll sell you all the monkeys back for $40 a piece. And then when he comes back, you'll all make $50 per monkey. And everyone's like, well, yeah, that's an easy $10 right there. Okay, yeah, here we go. The village pulls together all its money and buys back all the monkeys for $40. And then the assistant disappears and the guy never comes back to buy the monkeys.
I love it.
This is crypto. And I want to point this out. This is my main, and people like,
before you go too far away from the guy, let's remind people by showing his extremely, extremely punchable face. It's this clown that
Jesus.
We're talking about. Like, I keep loving seeing these motherfuckers end up in the news, getting in trouble or doing crazy shit. Like, or I don't love seeing them when they're shooters that try to murder a whole gay club, but. Lately, every time we get motherfuckers on the screen, they're exactly the fuck what they should.
Well, and I want to point out something. This guy
like the person that they should look like.
Well, no, but I want to point out something. This guy was actually a heavy Democratic donor.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
And here's the thing. It's mostly been Democrats backing crypto. And again, I understand the impetus. They're like, oh, it's cool. It's technology. It's good. No, it's not. It's just a Ponzi scheme. And here's why. And I'm always going to point this out about crypto. Crypto is a collectible. It is a solution without a problem. The only problems that crypto solves are money laundering and avoiding sovereign capital inflow and outflow laws. That's it. It's a solution without a real problem. The only
problems for paranoid weirdos that don't like
it has no real function. Sovereign currency is going to remain. And until the world decides to sit down with the UN and create one international currency, sovereign currencies are always going to be a thing, and they exist for a reason, and they have value for a reason. And I've gone through this.
Conservatives, David, you talked about a world currency. Woo!
Europe did it just fine, and honestly, in many ways, the dollar is the world currency because we did this really cool thing back in the 70s, where if you want to buy a barrel of oil, you have to pay for it in dollars.
It's okay. Haven't you learned anything? As long as it's American and forced on the world, it's perfectly fine. It's just fine.
But again, there's a reason.
Freedom, you'll take it and you'll like it. American money, you'll take it and you'll like it. Wait, European money? No, fuck off, commies. I mean, that's the worldview of these right-wing fucking douchebags.
I know, but
You can force it on the whole world if it's American. But
there's a reason why.
Boy, they'll be damned if they gonna take anything from not America.
There's a reason why sovereign currencies are a thing, and there's a reason why crypto is a solution without a problem. And every single time, and the problem is these guys actually, when they get enough money, they finally realize it. And every single time, these turn into Ponzi schemes. And quite frankly, Warren, in the committee hearings recently, took after them and said, basically, we have to regulate these people. This has to be securitized. If you buy a Bitcoin, it has to be registered with the SEC because that's what it is. It's a bet. It's a gamble, and it is not legitimate currency, and we need to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
The porn spammer is back.
Oh, God, we got a porn spammer. Oh, look at that. That's fun.
Girl 18. All right. Thanks for tuning in, porn spammer.
Tell me more, Girls 18.
This fucker, like when I saw the news, I don't know when it was maybe late last week, where they apprehended this guy in the Bahamas or some shit. My first thought was, oh, you don't say. Really? In the Bahamas. In some random island.
I gotta say, he wasn't even smart enough to flee to a non-extradition country. But I guess since he didn't have a French passport, he couldn't, make it to French Guiana and be like, ha ha ha, can't catch me.
David.
Yes.
Not even smart enough. Look at him. I mean, Jesus Christ. I just love it. He's so
even if
perfect in the role.
Even if he could have made it to Brazil, and he could have at least made a fight of the extradition.
Yeah.
Or fled to someplace that's in utter chaos like Peru right now, and been like,
oh, God.
Find a judge, find him.
Find one that's actually showing up for work. Well, shifting gears to a different breed of douchebaggery, but also I don't hate Kinzinger, but
no, I don't.
You were remarking earlier on his speech, his departure from office for now, because I don't really ever think any of these people leave office.
Nah, he ain't coming back.
Especially young like that.
I mean, he may come back. I don't know after that speech. So, Kinzinger, not former State Department Secretary of State Kinzinger.
Very different.
Kinzinger. This is like playing Iranian names. I hate this.
And if you're uninitiated, that's the young Republican dude that was on the January 6th committee, with the only other Republican being Liz Cheney. And I really like when I was still actively doing Twitter pre-Musk Twitter. I would see his tweets, and I really got a kick out of it. I really thought he was the kind of Republican, not only the kind of Republican I used to think I was dealing with, but the kind of Republican I actually could look at and be like, I kind of like that guy.
And you know what, he really is, and he said a lot of important things. He pointed out, like, the same way that I started as a Republican and realized that the Republican Party that I was told existed didn't. Mm-hmm. That it was a fairy tale, and I was literally like the Little Britain skit, where the two SS officers are in the trench and like, we have skulls on our hats. Are we the baddies? I'm like, I'm the baddie, aren't I? Oh shit. He had that moment. The one part where I had to take issue with him was he got mad at Democrats. He said Democrats are partially responsible for the radicalization of the Republican Party. And his argument was, well, you all go off and support radical Republicans in these primaries, to sabotage the Republican Party so that you can beat them. And here's my problem with this. Hey, Adam, why are the radical Republicans winning your primaries? Because here's the deal. If Nutsy McNutjob runs in the Democratic primary here in Tennessee or in Michigan or in New York or in any of these other places, Democrats look around and they say, well, no. And you all look around and they say, fuck yeah, give me the Nazi. Yeah, give me that Nazi. I want the guy who pees in his own mouth on OnlyFans. That's what I want.
My problem with that sentiment isn't that angle that the right embraces the nutty and the left. If the left does the trick of crossing over and voting to try to elect or nominate the whack job, knowing that they might lose in the end, but maybe betting wrong and they win, that's a more recent phenomenon. Him speaking to that seems a little early. It seems like the kind of speech someone should be giving in 10 or 20 years once it's a major practice, because we haven't been doing that a lot.
I don't care if we've been doing it a little or a lot. Here's the problem. When the Democrats go have a primary, we reject nuts. Right? Yeah. We reject, like, hey, you know what? I think all white people need to be in a concentration camp.
What? I mean...
No, we're not doing that. Hey, I think...
that extreme, really. I mean, just Williamson spiraling off into one of her weird hippie stories of seeing unicorns flying out of her butt in her dreams, or whatever the fucking... whatever.
Yeah, Princess Stardust. Oh, yeah, I love... You know what the sad thing is? The longer this goes on, like, I see a little bit of wisdom in Princess Stardust's, like, commentary, but it's not intentional. It's more like, you said something smart, but I don't think you actually intended to say it.
It just came up on her roulette wheel of wacky
right? Yeah. But I mean, it's
so he's wrong about that. He's definitely wrong about that.
But the thing is, moderate Republicans are adopting this as an excuse for their behavior. Well, the Democrats are out there, promoting these radicals. I'm like, if you're gonna have that guy in your primary, we'd like to run against the nut job in the general election.
At the end of the day, they're just doing this to cover up for the fact that the only place that they're truly spineless pussies is resisting the crazy wing of their own party. They're not pussies about buckling on to whatever fucking crazy platform can get them elected. Like I always say, the right comes honest crazy and wins, while the left goes dishonest sellout and loses anyway. But when you look at the right's willingness to be brave enough to do that, it falls apart when it comes to standing up to the Q, Trump, culty, fucking white nationalist bullshit.
There you go.
Instead of having to stand up to it, they're trying to figure out how to blame us for it.
Well, exactly. You look at Stefanik out of Long Island, right? Moderate, middle of the road, one of the last few of the breed, Republican. And the moment they offered her the number 3 slot that Cheney had, she became a Trump fellatiating nut job. And simply because, you'll give me the post for it. We need to acknowledge, I'm sorry, Adam, you need to acknowledge the spinelessness within your own party. We are exploiting that spinelessness. That's what we're doing. Yep. We're exploiting the fact that you won't leave the Republican Party. The party left you. You know where you are, Adam? You're a Democrat now. I'm sorry. You may feel hurt about it. But you and Manchin can go have tea and be dinos all day long. I don't care. Because here's the thing. We're Democrats. We still claim Manchin, barely. Cinema didn't like it when the fact that we had to smack her for not towing the party line at all, and so she's now an independent. But hell, Angus King has been an independent since dirt was invented, and he's still up there in Maine. And you know what? We'll claim him all day long. All right, fine, Angus. Here's a scotch. Sit down. I'm sure there's like some.
She doesn't give a fuck. She just needed the news cycle to mention her name again. She just realized that she wasn't getting enough attention.
Well, I mean, no, it's the fact that Gallego is going to show up in. Gallego has already made pretty clear he's going to show up in the Arizona Democratic primary and literally bring all the beaten stick. Yeah. To that Democratic primary,
and shit doesn't create a spoiler in the general election.
It is, and I mean, she's going to get the Arizona Democratic primary has found its nuts, and the Arizona Republic. Here's the thing: at this point, the McCain. If I had to pick what's happening in Arizona, it's this: the Trump Republicans have pissed off Cindy fucking McCain. Which, by the way, things you don't do in Arizona politics is piss off the fucking McCains. You just don't do it. It's like in Democratic politics in Illinois. Do not piss off the Dailies. For the love of Christ and all that's fucking holy, do not piss off the Dailies.
This is true. Well, speaking of irrational cunts, you put Musk on our list again. I swear, you guys. The boner alert that we have to sound for this guy is going to get worn out.
Well, because every week he keeps on going crazier.
David has a priapism boner alert problem when it comes to Elon Musk, but because once again he's gone off the fucking deep end. He went on his little tweet tirade of QAnon right wing goofy shit, and then he got booed by wasn't it Kanye's audience? No,
Chappelle, which.
Booed by Chappelle's audience, like some of the people that are the most generally tolerant of controversial opinions, gathered in one space, but not tolerant of your dumbass. That says something.
No, and you know what? I'm tired of Chappelle. I gotta say this on the front end. I'm tired of Chappelle and him being like, I'm gonna go to court. I don't.
I'm not tired of Chappelle.
He's not doing it. I don't feel that he's honestly doing it out of any sort of intellectual honesty anymore. He is being Kanye without the anti-Semitism at this point.
I don't know. I don't even know why Musk was there. Why he was brought on stage. I didn't really
because Chappelle wanted to have a spectacle.
Well, that's fine. I need to find like a decent clip of it because it's all shitty cell phone footage, and I just haven't been interested.
But anyway, I mean, so here's the things that he did this week. Just this fucking week. This is the problem. He went after Fauci,
right?
Saying my pronouns are prosecute Fauci.
And does this all go back to the Beaglegate bullshit?
I don't know. He's gotten Tabib, this formerly well-respected journalist, to do a whole series of hit pieces on democratic causes. It should also be pointed out that the reason this guy was formerly respected is so he went to Russia on assignment and decided to write a book about prostitution in Russia about him fucking prostitutes. Apparently, some of which may or may not have been, how shall we say, not children.
Oh.
So, he got really mad at the left for being like, hey, we're going to get your ass fired, you child fucker. And he's been really mad about the woke scene ever since. Being like, dude, you bought child prostitutes. So he's writing hit pieces for Musk now. The head of his legal department, he's forced from his home by threatening him. He's dissolved the Trust and Safety Council that was there to make sure that Twitter didn't promote exploitation of children and did not promote violence. So he's dissolved that. He started wandering into Q territory. Here's where I'm looking at Musk.
He's gone like very anti-scientific in some of this as well, and he's starting to lose. Like one of the biggest nerdy fans I know of his came to me the other day saying, "All right, I surrender. He's off the fucking deep end. He's gone and completely washed his hands of science and reason." And that's the problem is he's trying to be his little fucking edgelord dweeby ass self, and he's shooting himself in the ass, which totally fits the whole profile. I mean, I have watched this kind of uncontrolled spectrum geek crash and burn in every group I've ever been involved with. There's one in every fucking club. It doesn't matter what kind of club it is. You can go find a middle school chess club. One of those fucking kids is just like Elon, and will, given enough space and time, will go so far out that they lose even the next nerdiest motherfucker's support. And that's where he's living right now.
I mean, he's in terminal crash and burn right now, and I people pointed out, well, he's so rich. He's rich because Tesla is overvalued to an extreme. And I keep on pointing this out. Profit wise, and I'm going to break this down real fast. I promise. So when Ford is only valued at $50 billion, it's because Ford says, I have a debt load of about 20 cents per dollar, which means that for every dollar I get, I've got to pay about 20 cents in interest and principal on loans and debt. Tesla has about 150% debt load, which means that for every dollar they pull in, they still owe another 50 cents in interest and principal. It's a made up entity. Again, this is one of the things that's wrong. Like just like with crypto, this is one of the things that's become wrong with American capitalism and with capitalism in general. Is it's valued that way because people just keep on being like, oh, they have a bunch of debt. They must be a good bet, and they keep on shoveling more debt into it. Tesla's going to crash and burn like nobody's business, and Musk is actually making it happen because Musk keeps on leveraging, just like he did with Twitter, his shares in Tesla to buy things. SpaceX doesn't exist without Tesla stock being repulsively overvalued.
Right. I wish it weren't a shit show that affected potentially so many people, but. Let's hammer out this last one. I brought one to the table that was mostly me. We're going to be diving into this a lot more, I think, when we get to the Christmas time frame next week. But right now in Grand Rapids, the greedy and the heartless have reared their heads in a most amazing self-unaware kind of way. For whatever reason, the Chamber of Commerce chose to rally downtown business owners, many of whom don't even fucking live here and don't pay taxes in this city. They decided they would pen letters to the city commission urging them to make new laws and ordinances that would entrust, because we should trust the abusive, corrupt, racist Grand Rapids Police Department, to enforce ordinances that would help clean up the homeless problem in the downtown vicinity. And essentially, they decided to drop this like right before Christmas. And I cannot wrap my head around why. Like, if anybody asked a PR consultant what to do here, that consultant absolutely should be unemployed tomorrow. Because what kind of fucking dipshit Grinch say, oh yeah, let's use the holiday season as the time to drop this idea on people. I kind of figure it could be a hubris coming out of the election, because this whole thing is spearheaded by that VP of the chamber, Josh Lunger, who was behind part of the Safe GR Dirty Dark Money campaign in my district. So it could be like a momentum hubris, like, okay, cool, we're on a roll, let's do more nefarious Republican shit. Or the thing that somebody pointed out to me was when we hit tourism peaks, there's been a tradition of the downtown business owners throwing fit. And winter tourism is also a thing here just as well as summer. We have a lot of winter things. And so it could be related to that piece of the equation. So, yeah.
And I want to point this out from Olivia real fast.
I like this. By the way, Olivia's here. Hello.
Hi, Olivia. And because Utah actually tackled this problem in Salt Lake City pretty effectively, and what Utah did, they built houses. Mm-hmm. They basically said, we're going to build a whole series of apartments scattered throughout the city, and we are going to house the homeless. And in Nashville, there have been attempts to do the same. The problem is that the value of land has skyrocketed so much because of speculation, that every attempt to build homeless communities to house the homeless and to provide many of them who do, admittedly, many of them have mental issues, many of them have have substance abuse issues, and to be like, hey, we can provide you. We can, now that we have you in this space where you are housed, we can provide you support and make it so that you want to stay here and get the support that you need to either get on the meds that you need or get the assistance that you need so that you stay off the streets, or get the addiction treatment that you need to stay off drugs. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we can't do it in Nashville. But Utah did it. Utah went and said, we're going to pass. And here's the thing that Utah figured out, and this is why they did it. They're like, to build homeless shelters and to continuously go out and treat issues regarding homelessness, it costs us X amount. Mm-hmm. Just housing them, right, in normal houses, not like a concentration camp, not anything like that. Just normal houses costs us $300 million less.
Ta-da. Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of places have solved this or taken a stab at it. Nobody's solved it. And there are efforts being undertaken here. They're just slow and clumsy and poorly funded and overly reliant, and we'll get back into this when we talk about our closing topic of the night. No, not our main topic coming up. Over-reliant on religion to play a role. And so I'm going to save some of this for then, and then we will probably end up revisiting a little bit in more detail as a pet topic for me next week. But that's been the thing here that turned what should have been a low-key, ramping down of the political season here in Grand Rapids. It's turned it into a spike of controversy and activity. I can say that the city government here has been, it's been made clear in no uncertain terms, including one of the speakers Tuesday night at the commission meeting being a fellow from the ACLU, laying out exactly why the fuck they shouldn't even consider these suggested ordinances. One of her points being, if a runner or a jogger stops to tie their shoe, you have made it illegal, in the words of these laws. So they're not going to entertain it. The city has expressed no desire to take this up, but the reality is a smart group of leaders wouldn't have even given it the oxygen of reading the letter into the agenda. They didn't have to.
I just gotta say, from an economics perspective, it just constantly shocks me that the cheaper option is always to house people and provide them services.
Well, and most of these assholes that sign on to this letter, they have no interest in a solution. They say they give lip service, but they don't have an interest in this solution. They just want the sidewalk to be pretty in front of their JW Marriott or Amway Grand Hotel or bullshit boutique jewelry shop that they don't even live in the city and pay taxes here when they run. So it's complex and it's frustrating, and
it's really not. It's really not complex.
Gave me a new bailiwick, so that was interesting. Let's drink beer. I think beer would be the thing we should be doing at this point in time. So we wrap up these topics and we kick off with our first beer review of the evening at this point in the show. So I don't know who's going to go first, but first we have to ask the question: what you drinking? So are you prepped or am I prepped? Who's going?
I'm prepped because I actually had to slow down on drinking this so I could make it to this segment.
I actually did as well, but it works differently for me because I always paced a little bit slower. David's the machine when it comes to the beers. So
put her down. So I'm really happy about this. So I've been staring at this on the shelf for a while, and I finally went. I'm like, it's the Christmas season, and I'm gonna go grab it. So I went and got Wiseacre's astronaut status. And I want to show you this bottle because it's just a pretty bottle.
Oh, that's cool. That has
Right.
a somewhat of that retro space art that the old Dark Matter label.
Yeah, it's not old. The dark matter is still out there.
Well, yeah, it's been around. I mean, it's been around for a minute.
I actually thought about putting it on my taps, and
Yeah.
I avoided it mostly because I'm like, trying to explain a Schwartz beer is going to be too hard. It's going to be way too hard.
Yeah. That is hard to get people to wrap around.
Like, to be like, yes, it's a lager, but it's dark, but it's sweet, but it's not a port, but it's God damn it! Instead, I slapped. Just to let you know, I slapped at the urging of a goddamn Cajun. I slapped a beat of Christmas on one. It's not bad. It's good. It's
worse.
It's almost a chocolate Schwartz beer is what it is. But the other that I was actually kind of proud about. I normally am not a big Berliner Weiss fan, but Creature Comforts Athena. It's like a better Magic Hat number 9.
Okay.
It's got that strong apricot flavor, but it's not like with Magic Hat number 9. Like Magic Hat number 9 shows up with like, hey, I put an apricot in here and nothing else.
So the folks down in Memphis at Wiseacre have stuck that sucker in some Woodford Reserve bourbon barrels, apparently.
And I gotta say, it's actually
sounds delicious.
So here's the thing that you have to understand about Wiseacre. Wiseacre always has the same finish, no matter which Wiseacre you get. It always has this kind of smooth, and the best way to describe it is a smooth, bitter finish. It always, like, no matter which one of their beers you get, it's the signature of their brewing staff to have that smooth, bitter finish. And whether or not you're having Gotta Get Up to Get Down, or you're having any of their T series, or any of those, it always has this smooth, bitter finish. And the thing that makes that really work here is so many bourbon barrel aged stuff ends with a sharp note. And because you get the alcohol bite somewhere in there, and then you get that, especially in that stout, you get the bitter note, and then it slams shut. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't have to mind it, but when Wiseacre does stuff and it has that smooth transition to it, it's always a real treat.
It looks pretty.
And in this, it does the same thing. Like, it leaves you with that lingering, smooth, bitter, like little bit of bitter. The alcohol note on this is actually on the front end, which I think serves it very well as a progression of flavor, because it goes from that alcohol note to a bitter chocolate note, and then again it finishes with the best way to describe it is like Earl Grey tea, right? And they actually had it for a while, an Earl Grey IPA, which is absolutely fantastic. But it has like that sort of smooth bitterness to it, like an Earl Grey tea. As a finish, and it just makes it absolutely super enjoyable. That's why I had to stop drinking it, mostly because I'm like, I'm just gonna kill this, because it's so good.
So this ages with the bourbon barrels and cinnamon sticks and vanilla beans, and
And you definitely still.
Hey, the notes are the bourbon, vanilla, cinnamon, mild coffee, and chocolate. Is that what you're getting?
So the coffee, I'm not getting as much. I will say the vanilla and cinnamon hang out in the mouth after. Let me take another.
That's not a bad thing. I like that.
The coffee I'm only getting at the very end of the mid. But again, and I imagine for a lot of people, like if they were to have this, and like the first taste is definitely an alcohol note. It's that bourbon alcohol at the front. It's not super strong, but I imagine a lot of people they'd be like, I don't know, it tastes like booze, but like you've got to let it roll through the mouth.
Yeah.
And it's got a strong coffee chocolate is the mid, and then the cinnamon vanilla is actually way after the finish. I'm still tasting cinnamon and vanilla in my mouth right now, but you don't really get it. You get a little bit of vanilla at the finish. You get a strong vanilla note, and then it bounces out. But again, everything that Wiseacre does, and it's one of the reasons why they're one of my favorite breweries, is the finish on all their beers is always so fantastic. In terms of, you never drink, in my experience, you never drink a Wiseacre beer and have a bad finish at the back end, right? It's always a good, smooth finish that completes it.
Yeah, I was checking the Love. I mean, it's got a solid 4.25 rating with 3,600 rating. That's a lot of Love. Yeah. So you like it? You think it earns that?
Yeah, and I want to say this. I imagine that I'm getting a slightly different flavor than some other people have gotten because you may notice that's when that was bottled. So this is aged. This is bottle aged for 2 years. You can, and for most people don't realize this. You can bottle age, especially barrel aged stouts, for up to 5 years. I know from my friends at Reds that they have. I lean on them for a couple of them. I'm like, what year are we in now for some of those? Year 5's coming. Year 5's coming, and you still haven't sold that bottle. So, how much you going to charge me? And so, when you have something that's barrel aged and it sits in the bottle and matures, it's going to develop different flavors as it matures. That's actually one of the reasons I found this out the other day, because you commented to me a few months ago about how Monday Night in Atlanta was surprised about some of the stuff that Reds had.
Yeah.
And I talked to the people at Reds, and they're like, well, the stuff that we have is all barrel aged. And we kept it off the shelf for 6 months to let it mature.
Okay.
We kept some of it off the shelf to let it mature, and we're gonna and we continue to let stuff mature. They also apparently had a buying agent who was a little bit ambitious about some of his buys. Like, yeah, we can move that. The fuck you can, motherfucker. You don't have enough of me to move that. So, I mean, it's aged another 2 years. And again, 2023 will probably have a slightly different note. I would imagine that actually
they always have a little bit different character depending on the bourbon.
Yeah, and Woolford Reserve actually is a very smooth bourbon. It's if you've never had it, it's I'm not a big bourbon drinker, but it's
the truth.
One of the ones where I'm like, that's not awful, because it is a very smooth bourbon, and I imagine that's why they chose this as a medium.
Well, it's my turn, fucker.
Go for it.
I think I'm actually on refreshes of both of these. I think I may have reviewed this first one. I know my second one is a repeat because it's thematically appropriate to no longer having to mind my P's and Q's and maybe not have a beer until I talk to a doctor. So now that I got clear of that, I celebrated a little. I'm going to bring that into the show here later. But right now I'm on Broadleaf's Chromatic Shatter, and I really like Broadleaf. There's it's part of the Brewery Vivant.
You have done this before, actually. Now that I think about it,
yeah, it's part of Brewery Vivant. It's the same company, and they're actually opening a Broadleaf tap room right down the street. Bridge Street down here near our neighborhood is just it's beer.
Have they been warned that you live in the vicinity? Is the question. I mean, I
have a feeling that the content of my political character may be in line with the owners of these two labels, but I love the way that this can looks. It's got this kind of faux holographic. It isn't really holographic, but it strikes you that way because of the reflective thing. And then they're the ones that do the braille thing. We've talked about that before,
yeah,
which is super neat. I need to learn the story behind that. There has to be a reason. And when they do the tap room over here, I'll go in and chit chat and find that out. So I'm excited to have them joining in my neighborhood now with a new location soon. Or now it's open. I forgot where we're at on that. It's either open now or open really soon. So this is the Hazy Pale. I would say pretty accurate on its 3.92 rating. It's a good one. It's pretty when poured in a glass. It's a nice pale amber, not real hazy. You can see through it. It's hazy, but it's not like a cloud. Talus, Mosaic, Citra hops. I mean, it's the description is pretty much spot on. Bursting with hops, super crushable. That's the way they describe it. That's the way I would say that it definitely lives up. I'm gonna say I almost wish it had a smaller than a pint can because it's way better if you just kill it ice cold. If you let it sit like we have for our discussion tonight, it loses some luster for me.
the hops start to hit too much.
Maybe I would just love for it to be a more slammably friendly size, perhaps. Or I would get this when you aren't full of dinner like I was when I sat down for the show, when you can really just get into the beer and just mow through that thing. Because coming out fresh, cold, this thing is on point. And it lingering here on the desk while we have a discussion, it's a little harder.
One thing that I've noticed, and I actually went into this with my beer reps the other day because I had to educate some of my reps about stuff, is one thing that I've noticed in the beer industry is a gravitation towards the Idaho 7 hop. And one of the things about the Idaho 7 hop that's just so rough is it, first of all, it wrecks the nose. Like, it smells like pure weed in the nose. And the first taste that you get off an Idaho 7 hop, because it has that Idaho 7, it just has that massive hop slam, is and I've Yazoo makes their hop perfect, and it's still with Cascadia, and they just add more Cascadia, which is a way to do it. And honestly, in some ways, I'm not gonna lie, I prefer it. Again, when a couple of weeks ago when I was in Orlando and I did Tactical Brewing, and a lot of their like super weedy beers were all Idaho 7 hops, and it's one of those hops that's out there that some brewers are gravitating towards. Pernicious Weed doesn't use Idaho 7; they just extra hop. But I imagine that they're probably looking at Idaho 7 being like, soon. It's I don't know what to say about it. Does it make a beer bad? No. Does it detract from my enjoyment of the beer when you've slammed in something so hard. Like in the same way, like I can't do Tennessee Brew Works 1927, simply because it's so whiskey. You need to have something that, in my opinion, you need to have something that resembles beer in there when you do that. But again, like it sounds like with this chromatic, they've probably done a pretty good job. I also want to.
Yeah, they definitely have. It's it's pretty yummy. I really would be a big fan of mowing it down. It's not.
Give a shout out to this Woodford. Brian, if you haven't, I got this from my rep the other day, and you should definitely look it up if you can find it. If you want to have a really interesting, cheap bourbon that I was actually shocked by, of all fucking things, Evan Williams, 1793, right? It's like $20 a bottle for me. I imagine it's probably like 25, 27 for everyone else with markup. But I'll be fucked if I wasn't like, huh?
I could see that. That's kind of me with Benchmark bourbon. We recently several months back found.
I mean, I've
good bourbon. It's very smoky, and it's now our well here for the home bar. I
gotta be honest.
Bottle of it in the decanter, and that's the basic bourbon that we're keeping.
That Evan Williams 1793, I was shocked. I'm like, I am not a brown liquor person. I am not a big fan of a lot of brown liquors, but I had that, and I was like, I could take a shot of this. Like normally and here's the thing. Like you have to understand, in Tennessee we are dominated by sour mash. Thank you, Jack fucking Daniels. And we are dominated by like sour whiskeys, and even our bourbons, like even the stuff that we get as bourbon, like well, everyone in Tennessee likes sour stuff, and so we get stuff like that other people are like, oh yeah. I'll say honestly, with like an orange twist in a shot on that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna be in trouble. David's currently somewhere on Broadway, and that's never a good thing for literally anyone.
It's nice we have Brian's input on both the whiskey front and the other fronts. Brian's brought to us again his contribution to the show tonight. We always get a little bit of a play-by-play on what Brian's up to keep up with us in the evening. Tonight it's more of the skunk ape indica. Not a high percentage of THC, only 22%. But I'm layering it with Keef, which drastically raises the fun levels. It also makes it very tasty in an old school way.
See, Brian, you would like Idaho 7 hops. I want to say, like, Idaho 7 hops were made for you.
I feel like we should just send him a bag of those hops and then let him report in on what he does with them. So let's get into the big thing.
We are so far behind. This is going to be fun.
Okay.
We're just dicking around at this point, ladies and gentlemen.
The Jesus excuse. That is the elephant in the room. And I pulled one of the pieces of our show graphic out to be able to deploy for this discussion, David. So there it is. The get out of jail free Christ chance card. When David first brought this up, I said, okay, so what's the angle on this? And then we talked a little bit, and I said, so essentially it's like any time people get away with shit because Jesus or because church because religion.
Right now,
it's not only Christian, but it's a lot.
It's vastly majority, because in the past few weeks we've had we've had court cases, we've had laws, we've had a bunch of stuff revolving around I'm Christian, and therefore I shouldn't have to do something. Mm-hmm. I'm an evangelical Christian, and therefore I shouldn't have to participate in the wider economy in a non-discriminatory manner.
Right.
And even in this is one of the things that
the license to be hateful, often wrapped up in a Bible. I mean, In a lot of cases,
Well, even this bill, which protects gay and interracial marriage, there's still these exceptions. Like, hey, you Tennessee don't actually have to perform gay marriages. You just have to respect the marriages that are done by other states that actually are civilized. It pisses me off. I'm looking around, going, okay, wait a second, wait. And the thing is, the court has consistently deferred to this idea that because of your religious conviction, you can choose to discriminate. And I want to be clear. Are there situations in which your religion should allow you to potentially discriminate? Sure. Like if I own a church-run Catholic bookstore and I don't want to put a Jewish author on my shelves, okay, that makes sense. If I run a a Bible manufacturing thing, printer, and all I make is Bibles, it's not fair, I would argue. And I think that's completely fair for someone to say, oh, you have to print the Koran as well. Okay, that's fine. All you do is print Bibles. That's fair. If you hold yourself out, however, as a company that does things, right, which arguably have no religious implication, such as building a fucking website.
Yeah.
No. I mean, if you only build websites for churches, okay. If you build websites for other companies, right? Like, hey, I want to set up a plumbing business. Okay, I'll set up a website for you. Wait, are you gay?
Yeah, right. Well, and this chick that had this suit about the websites, she hadn't been in the situation. It's preemptive, as we discussed before. And then B, it's not based on controversy. It's based on discrimination. It's not, I generally stay away from any projects that are considered socially controversial. That probably would have never ended up in court anyway, because, well, she's the one bringing the suit, so she would have forced it into the fucking system anyhow.
Yeah, which again has no standing.
No one would complain if you were to say, yeah, I tend to only do like non-controversial projects. You could then draw that line in a variety of places, a variety of different ways, and never really get dinged for it, because you could include in that, yeah, I don't do gay wedding websites because that's so controversial, and I don't do right-wing militia websites either because that's so controversial. I just stick to boring shit like bakeries or what. You could do whatever, but the twist that they want to put on it is always some kind of free pass to fucking be whatever kind of dick bag they want in the name of Jesus. Amen.
And I want to point out, this has a long history, because one of the first defenses that was tried to the Civil Rights Act was, it's against my religion to serve black people. And the Supreme Court looked around and they said, oh, that's cute. Go fuck yourself.
I don't know that the court now would be the same way.
Well, no, but that's the thing. The court is actively entertaining these sorts of, well, I'm Christian and that offends me.
Yep.
And the problem is we keep on running into these situations in which the evangelical conservative Christianity keeps on wanting to say, because I'm evangelical or conservative Christian, I shouldn't have to follow the same rules as literally everyone else about everything. With the ACA, one of the big cases that came up was the Little Sisters of Charity, and they purchased a off-the-shelf fucking insurance plan. Right? Which happened to, according to the laws of the ACA, provide for birth control. And they were really mad about the fact that all these off-the-shelf healthcare plans had to provide for birth control. Go make your own healthcare plan. Lots of people do it. Lots of people self-insure. There you go. You don't have to pay for healthcare. All you had to do was self-insure. But no, you got mad because you were told that the general market cannot discriminate based on your sex cult. And I'm going to apologize to any Roman Catholics who are out there, but after the whole thing about Biden can't receive communion because he can be religiously against abortion, but as a matter of civic duty, acknowledge that its existence is a part of law in a multi-religious, multicultural republic. No, you're part of a sex cult. And if someone gets mad at me about that, I completely understand. I'm more than happy to engage with you on it. But this is not. We're not talking rationally anymore. We're not even talking about any sort of approachable reason anymore.
Right.
Well,
you know what it sounds like to me, David? It sounds a lot like back in high school and middle school. I had a lot of jokers that I hung around with, and they would say that as a joke. It's against my religion. Like, I don't really think I can do homework on a Tuesday night, sir. What? Why? It's against my religion. You know, it was just a punchline for fucking class clowns, and all of these fuckers seem like clowns, and they are clowns. And I mean, it's just astonishing how much of a special little carve out. They want their little special snowflake corner just because they think that they are the only one correct religion, and it always.
I know.
Happens,
Here's the thing. I don't care.
Down to daily dumb shit.
I don't care if they think they're the only correct religion. I don't care. Fine. Think that you're the only correct religion. Go for it. The problem is that we have a public civil space that's supposed to exist in which we aren't supposed to exclude anyone based on race, religion, or a lot of other things. National origin, ethnicity, sexual orientation now. That's supposed to be one of them. I mean, it's insanity. And again, like, there are places where where it's completely logical for someone to say, no, I'm not going to do that because I own a religiously themed, religiously pointed business. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this happen before. I shit you not, the seller of used appliances. I've seen this. I used to have to pass this guy's shop all the time. And he made a point of, I'm a Christian-owned business. I have all the Jesus fish on my goddamn stuff, whatever. And if that guy wanted to say, well, as a rule, this is a religious business, and I predominantly only look to sell to conservative Christians. Okay, well, you've self-limited your service, and you've made it known that you self-limit your service based on this fact. I don't necessarily know if it's an awful thing to say. Okay, fine. If you only want to sell to those people, that's fine. But the problem is that all these people, it isn't that they only want to sell to one group of people. Like, again, I would understand as an Episcopalian if I walked into a Catholic bookstore and they're like, what church do you go to? I'm like, Christ Church Cathedral? And they'd be like, that's not a Catholic church. I'm like, no. And they'd be like, well, get the fuck out. I mean, you're dicks. I'm probably going to flick you off on my way out. There's probably going to be a lot of jerk-off motions on my way out. But I'm going to leave. Because, okay, you only sell to Catholics. I would understand a Jewish delicatessen who says, hey, we'll sell... or in an opposite example, we're a Jewish delicatessen. We only serve kosher, right? Or, of all the things, a popular hamburger joint here in Nashville, which is owned by Muslims, which does not serve pork bacon, right? I don't I don't fucking show it to Fat Moe's and get mad at them about the fact that they don't serve pork bacon. On the other hand, if Fat Moe's were to turn around and say even though we sell to everyone, we're going to choose not to sell to Jews, right? Which is something they would never do.
That is a piece of this, but that's not quite the same as the production of a
well, no, it's the same idea, which is like, hey, we sell to everyone except for Jews.
It's kind of Brian's question sort of described what you just described. In these situations, is there a point at which the content one is asked to create crosses the lines of personal morals, or should anyone be forced to do something they find personally offensive, all religion aside? As a business site for training accountants owned by a gay man is very different than a gay dating site, which is very different than Pornhub. Where does the line get drawn? So, it's a complicated question, but for me, the clear answer and a rational construct of what we thought we were dealing with before the right-wing crazy got to be given some space in the room. If you don't want to do gay wedding websites, you're going to have to not do wedding websites.
Well, no, you can do wedding websites. You can just say, hey, I only do wedding websites for conservative evangelical Christians. There we go. I would accept that.
He's kind of already trying to say that.
But no, they aren't. That's the catch. That's really the catch, because they know that
her little lawsuit. That's basically what she's trying to say.
No, she's saying the opposite. She's saying only gay things offend me. She could do something here.
So really, if she would just flip the equation, she didn't even have to do any of this bullshit.
Bingo!
If she just said, I only do, Christian-oriented whatever, evangelical websites or whatever, then she wouldn't even be questioned on that. But because she has flipped the equation and said, she's gone meatloaf. But I won't do that. Yeah. Which all that kind of
for those of you listening in, this is me throwing all the thumbs up all at once.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she did.
Standard conservative stupidity about how shit works.
Which is the problem. Is I'm free to exclude people, but only one group of people, right? Which is discrimination. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: there are logical.
I'm here to include only a category of people.
Right. Here's the thing: if you're there only to include one category, here's the thing: if the Klan wants to set up a wedding website business, I don't think anyone would look at them and say, I don't think any African American or any other race would ever show up to that company and be like, hey, I'd like you to make me a wedding website. And of course they would say, no, we're trash. Why the fuck first of all, why the fuck would you talk to us? Secondly, no. But I mean, if that was to happen, I would understand. Like if the Ku Klux Klan were to say, we have a wedding production website for only white people. Okay, you're douche canoes, obviously, but okay, that's fine. You can't say only white people and Indians and Arabs and
just not black
Pentecostal Brazilians and you can't pick and choose. You can either choose one or it's all. That's the rule. And
so I've heard this question before that Brian put to us here, and it is a pretty valid thought. Why would you want to do business with someone who doesn't want to do business with you? It's like pissing off your waiter when he brings you food. It's not a good idea. But it's not about the why for the person. It's about the overall precedent. It's about the example and the precedent, not necessarily the why would you want to. No,
Why?
of course I wouldn't want to. I mean, I think I may have told you. I don't know if I told you on the show, but some time ago I was looking for something that fell into the category of uniform clothing. I went looking at uniform shops here in Grand Rapids, and I found one. I don't remember the name. And I looked them up just to see where they were, and I happened to catch their photos because I saw a thin blue line flag on a wall in the store, and I was like, wait a minute. And I flipped through all their photos on Yelp, and it was nothing but fucking nationalist, brainwashed fucking propaganda shit. You could tell that their whole platform was cops, ooh-rah, and they happened to also sell nurse scrubs. And I was just like, nah, I'm not even going to go look and see if they have what I want. Fuck these people.
No.
And you know, so I definitely think most people would just say, nah, fuck them because they don't like, you know, who they are, what they represent, and not do business with them. But letting the legal precedent get away with existing would be problematic for the whole of the population.
The problem, and I want to explain the problem that exists. There was a really cool movie a little bit ago with Viggo Mortensen, and I'm going to forget the name of the black actor who was involved in it, called The Green Book. Wow. Actually, me and Lucas went and saw this together. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about The Green Book was this. There were businesses, African Americans.
Mahershala Ali.
There we go. Who was amazing in it, by the way.
Really, there were other people in that movie that hardly were in the movie. It's a real duo-driven movie.
Yeah, it's a huge duo-driven movie. It's absolutely amazing.
The two of them are just incredible and working together incredibly, telling a story incredibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go see it. Go see The Green Book. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the idea, and I am familiar with the idea of The Green Book. The Green Book was a guide published to African Americans before the Civil Rights Act, which specified the places where African Americans could sleep and eat on a road trip. So if they had to go from one place to another, they needed the Green Book to tell them where there were institutions that would allow African Americans to sleep and eat. After the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that ended, right? The whole pissing off your waiter thing. When you institutionalize denying people access to commerce as a rule, you create a fundamental discrimination against everyone in a really awful way. And not only is it awful, it is inherently discriminatory because, of course, the African American businesses would be targeted. One of the scenes in The Green Book was there was an African American owned restaurant where they showed up expecting to be able to be served and realized that the previous owners had been killed. And whites had taken over their business.
Yep.
Now, we like to think today that wouldn't happen. But again, it wasn't that long ago that this was happening.
Right.
So, I mean, this whole story about, like, oh, you know, well, if they don't want to do business with you, just don't do business with them. That's not how the world works.
Well, both of these things are true, in my opinion. Don't do business with them. Fine. Can't let them get away with discriminating against protected class. Also true. And to take a quick sidestep, because Brian asked, and I will entertain the question.
Yeah, because he keeps
NFT announcement.
Yeah,
not really.
Yeah, yes, Brian. I noticed it. His trading card set is out there that he wants to do. We did not discuss it, mostly because at this point his latest money grab is entirely inconsequential. Before this motherfucker heads to prison.
Funny looking. I mean, if you're out there wondering what we're talking about, just go Google Trump NFT. Yeah.
So late to the party where the bottom has already fallen out on that.
I'm gonna leave it pulled up so I can look at it more, but it's really hysterical. I mean,
hit him in the different uniforms.
trading cards.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, $99 for digital only trading cards. Never mind, the very concept of a screenshot just breaks the NFT concept. It's the fundamental stupidest fucking thing. Like, don't get me started. We'll end up progressing all the way back to crypto. So let me take another spin on this Jesus excuse thing, because I told you I was probably going to go there. I get so fucking tired of this theory that we should outsource public good services to religious organizations, and that falls into this Jesus excuse for me. This notion that because religious charities just could do no wrong, so we should have them doing things. And here with this upheaval here in Grand Rapids over the homeless topic, which I'm always a little bit. We all know that I'm not a big fan of redefining words, and I get really fucking irritated when younger generations come along and say that word's no longer okay. Never mind what the dictionary says. I decided what it means now, and now you can't say it. Homeless is a little bit in the category of change.
You would suck at Scrabble.
Well, no, I think knowing what words are is key to Scrabble. The definitions don't matter. So
word in common usage is the key phrase in Scrabble.
You were one of those. No, I'm not surprised at all. That you'd be a Scrabble rules lawyer. Any Scrabble game with David is 45% game, 55% David arguing about minutia. Keep anyone else from scoring. So homeless is a word I try to be a little more careful with, because unhoused is a better description. In a lot of cases, unhoused serves all the purposes of the word, because you could have been housed and you got unhoused, or you are unhoused. So I do like that more politically correct effect on it, because homeless is a different kind of connotation. But either way, I use them interchangeably. So anybody that hears me talk about it and I say homeless, it's because I'm 44 and I fucking said it for my whole fucking life, and that's the way it is. And I don't trust the fucking churches to handle homelessness. And right now, part of the Jesus excuse going on here is that there's a charity here called Mel Trotter Ministries, which is I don't have an analogy for Nashville, but it's very much a large organization. Apparently, I've heard it has a $28 million budget, which is, I mean, it's not incorrect for a lot of money to come in and out of charitable organizations, but that's a lot of money. So apparently they're the one that everybody wants to lean on. The leadership and the conservative folks want to say, hey, we'll work in concert with places like that. But the resistance that I hear from everybody is, they don't have enough beds. They kick out all the people during the day. No one gets to stay there during the day for any resources. Like, just a litany of
which is exactly what you don't want to do.
Yeah, a litany of problems, and pawning it all off instead of taking responsibility as a government and as a set of leaders, or in the case of these assholes that signed this letter downtown, not contributing a solution of their own. With the continued audacity that some of them operate.
Which, by the way, I want to point this out. That's pretty much like rule number 3 or 4 in business school, which is, don't point out a problem unless you've got a solution.
Holy fuck, these motherfuckers have no solutions. Their solution was suggesting a bunch of ordinances. One, you'll as a lawyer, you'll love this, and of course we can dive deeper into it, because next week I'm planning to actually use excerpts and talk about it and add some to some extent of ad nauseum. But part of it was if there is adequate shelter space available. Who gets to decide that? How do you even know 5 minutes from now if a bed is open? How does the cop walking the beat know, oh, now there's adequate space, I can arrest this person for sleeping on this bench? because I heard 20
Or
minutes ago.
why
there's
don't
another
you just take them?
bed.
Here's the thing: if there's adequate space, why doesn't the cop just escort the homeless or unhoused person
that's the theory, David.
to?
That's the theory because they're serving God and country, but we all know that we don't trust them.
Hi, Joel Osteen. How you doing?
Yeah, we don't trust them to be the arbiter of judgment and take the person off the street safely, and not just lose their shit because the person got cranky and they're going to say stop resisting and they're going to start beating them up.
Well,
and I mean, it's just.
I mean, that was one of the first things that alerted me to the fact that Trump was a complete piece of shit, was the fact that two of his supporters left his rally and beat a homeless Latino man to death. I mean, and here's the deal. Like, in Nashville, especially, homeless unhousedness is a big issue, right? We have entire tent cities. We have entire, arguably, districts that are predominated by tent cities because the price of housing in this location has gone up so fast and is so unaffordable to so many. You have people who have tents, and you walk into their tent, and they've got a hanging rack with suits and ties in their briefcase so that they can go to work because they have to wear a suit to work, but they can't afford a house or any place to stay.
Brian highlights having a friend in in North Carolina who has become homeless, telling him a lot about the other side of society. The local cops aren't either brilliant or heroic. And, whenever you're relying on police to be the arbiter of anything like this, it's part of that mythology that, cops have sworn to do good. No, not necessarily. They crossed their fingers and took their oath. And delivering people into a system run by churches and religious organizations, there's a blind trust to it that really bothers me and fits into this Jesus excuse category. Like, oh, well, if we just get enough faith-based stuff, then we can fix everything by handing it over to them, and they'll do it right because God or something. And that does not work for me, never has, and it's just, to me, the other end of the equation on this, give the free pass to religion for everything.
No, I mean, it's
also a cop-out. It's a fucking civic cop-out.
I want to point out, it's not a free pass to religion. And this is one of the things that pisses me off. It's not a free pass to religion. It's a free pass to conservative evangelical Christianity. It's not a free pass to religion. If your local mosque wants to house people, that's apparently a fucking problem. If your local Reformed synagogue wants to do something for people, that's apparently a fucking problem. If your local Pentecostal church that loves to explain to its parishioners how all gay people are going to hell, anyone who's trans is actually just confused and needs to be committed, and how you should, love your gun as much as your wife, those guys can do no wrong.
I don't know if you set the bar in the right place there, David. Love your gun as much as you do your wife. No, wait, you did, because they're both property in the eyes of that owner.
Well, no, actually, there is a church in America, a offshoot of the Moonies, which I've mentioned on this show earlier, who actually, as a rule of their church, all members must own an AR-15 or an automatic capable weapon, and they must bring them to church. And the pastor wields his gun as part of the religious ceremonies. They are actually a very well-funded church, thanks to the donations of a variety of very wealthy conservatives. But yes, there is a proliferation of gun church in America. There's a serious trust gap for me and a whole lot of people on that, and
And then, of course, your original idea behind this topic is the other end of that. It just plays out in all sorts of special treatment and special bullshit. I think it ultimately boils down to exceptionalism. It's people thinking that they're super mega special in this case because God said so, and they deserve all sorts of special consideration, and the rest of us heathens don't deserve any of it.
I want to point out that this rule goes even further. Like this Jesus exception that we keep on talking about goes even further. If you go to a pharmacy and you want birth control, the pharmacist can say no. Why? Because it's against their religion. If you want Plan B, it goes against their religion. And the thing is, even though the Pope in Rome has said this is not valid, and this is one of the things that strikes me, even though the Pope in Rome has said this is not valid, you can be walking, and especially after the Dobbs decision, you can be walking into an emergency room as a woman with an ectopic pregnancy, which is non-viable, and your doctor can say, I can't remove this ectopic pregnancy because as a Roman Catholic, I cannot abort this life. Well, it's not a lot. Like, ectopic pregnancies are one of those points where I look at anti-choice activists and I say, this should be easy.
Yeah.
This should be super fucking easy. But yet, you all, in violation of papal fucking decree.
Yeah. It's making shit up.
Well, which is the problem, especially in America. In America, the American Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is actually, it's just the American Conference of Bishops if you're Catholic. If all these organizations that want to create these carve-outs for themselves about healthcare, about all these other things, even when the head of your fucking religion is saying, stop this,
right?
You don't. Then it's not about religion anymore. It's about politics.
Yes.
Which,
and it's about self-centeredness and
no, it's not even about self-centeredness. It is about bigotry. It is at that point about bigotry. The American Conference of Bishops is bigoted against women, against minorities, against all sorts of other people. These religious organizations are not doing this because they actually believe in their own religious rights. They want to exclude other people from these rights. And the classic example, and I want to bring this up, Laura Ingraham came up today, or not today, yesterday, to explain why the marriage bill that came up, that was passed, discriminated against Christians. Now, again, the marriage bill that was passed does not require the state of Tennessee, does not require the state of Florida, does not require the state of anything to perform a marriage among anyone who's homosexual. Doesn't require it. It just simply requires that if two gay people go off to a, civilization and get married, that when they come back to their own home state, just like with any other court document, just like with any other legal document, the state must acknowledge that they are married. Mm-hmm. And somehow that's trampling on their rights as Christians. It's not about Christianity. It is about bigotry. It is about white supremacism. It is about everything awful in humanity. And I want to point out, there's even some black churches that have gotten on board with this idea of, we hate gays, we hate... And all I can do is look at them and be like, you do not remember when white people said you couldn't stop at that gas station, you couldn't use that bathroom when you had to use the Green Book? And the answer, more than likely, is no, we forgot that, mostly because someone white showed up with some money to give us.
Dude, marginalized people, or people that come from a marginalized background or segment, who will then turn around and marginalize other people, always drive me nuts.
Hi, Africa.
Topic, though. I think we should drink some more, David. It's time for another round, ladies
Oh,
and
Jesus.
gentlemen. So, I will jump in first. I've got this guy rolling here. This is a repeat for me from about 3 weeks ago, I think. This was my first beer that I jumped into last night when I finally had the, after I had been to the cardio clinic appointment and didn't give him the all clear to live my life. I leaned over to Jesse and I said, I'm so having a dragon's milk tonight. So I did this back when they first released it. I'm going to re-endorse it again. This is the Dragon's Milk Reserve. Reserve being the series of the special releases. This one was released during Barrel Bash. It's Brewers Select. It's a 14% versus the average Dragon's Milk at 11. Last night, honestly, because it had been a solid week, basically, a little under a week, I cracked it open and I was like, "Woo, boy, that's a strong one," because it had been some time. So it does come in boozy and fuming up the joint, and it's great. It's rich as fuck. It's got a really kind of a sweet, dark, boozy barrel-aged touch to it. I think it's a little sweeter, syrupier than the average Dragon's Milk. Now, what makes this Brewer Select especially unique is that it's selected barrels, and it's not the same kind of blend that they normally do with the main production runs of Dragon's Milk. Truth be told, I'm too full to drink this beer, but I'm doing it anyway. Had a big giant Chinese takeout dinner before just got down for the show, and then the pint of the broadleaf, and so now this is going to be a nursed, sipped, slow go here. This one will age in its temperature and in the room a little better. These don't fall off. They don't have to be ice cold. Very nice. And actually, I meant to have it pulled up, and I didn't already, but I'm going to look on Untapped because I want to see...
which I didn't want to bring in your parade, but there's actually a cache of those at Reds.
Well, you should get it. This one?
Yeah.
The Brewer Select.
Yeah.
With the weird little Denny's label.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got to pick up a pack of that, dude. You really do. I want you to be able to try that. I'm pulling it up on Untapped because I want to see if it's gained some momentum. Yeah, here we go. Before, it was so new that there wasn't a lot of review or data happening. Now, within 3 weeks, it has 4,500 ratings or 4,600 ratings, and it's a 4.27 average. So it is still mislisted, though. It's 14, but they still have it listed as 12 on Untapped. So it's a batch of Dragon's Milk using hand-picked barrels direct from distilleries by the brewers. The barrels they're chosen are the ones that retain more than usual barrel character and carry that forward into the beer. And that's definitely very, very clear when you drink this. Right when you ducked off, I was talking about how I popped the one open last night, and it'd been a little bit since I'd been exposed to.
Oh no, you forget I can hear you even.
Oh, that's right. It was still in your ear. Yeah, I mean it really does. Like when you open it up and you give that nose to it, like ooh boy.
Yeah. For those of you who don't understand, so in order to cut down on echo, I now do the show entirely with all my sound coming through earbuds. So even when I have to finally get up to as I accidentally touch the wrong thing to make the HBO Max in the background.
David's sabotaging his whole studio life over there.
Right. So so in order to cut down on echo, I constantly hear through earbuds now, so that we don't have speakers.
This was pioneered while he was on the road in Orlando. It was the only way to make it work.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
So what are you drinking, man?
So literally everyone in town has been talking about this beer. I shit you not. I've gone to like 4 different guys.
I'm really jealous because I know what's coming. I have the list in front of me that people don't get to see until it hits the screen, and I'm really fucking jealous because this is one of my favorite things ever.
Everyone has been talking about this. So this is Yeehaw Brewery, which is actually does have a brewery in town, but this is actually out of their Greenville, South Carolina outfit. And this is a Leg Lamp Lager, which for those of you who don't understand the reference, it's in reference to A Christmas Story.
I'm so jealous. I love that it's got boots too. It's like a little bit rockabilly country retro meat.
Everyone has been talking about this beer.
Lamp.
Everyone. My distributors have been talking about this beer. When I go to hang out with my other bar people, they're talking about this beer. When I go talk to like Breads or anyone else, when I go talk to Mr. Whiskers or any of these other sales places, they are all talking about this beer. So this is actually technically the second time I tried this beer.
Fruit lager.
It is really. It's just really interesting. It's a cranberry lager.
Oh.
So, but one of the things that they've done with it that's kind of neat is, so I feel like they didn't hop it at all. They just let the bitter from the cranberry carry through to make it complete. And so you get the sweet from the cranberry at first. It really just tastes like a cranberry lager. And I gotta say, it's super nice because one of the things, like, again, when you drink it, it bitters and then it sweetens at the end. I think that's the unique thing about it.
You know what I love best about the artwork? People can't tell it when we put it up on the screen because it's just not going to be big enough. But I went and looked it up, and the leg lamp is totally like a Casey Musgraves fashion style. It's like the whole design is taken out of Casey Musgraves aesthetic. And then the little berries on the leg lamp skirt / lampshade are little pairs of tits. Look at them. They're little pairs of tits.
Oh my God, they are.
Tell me those are not little tits.
No, they are. They have nipples. I did not realize that at all until now.
Berry does not have a little stem nubby on it. Only the bottom 2 berries. They're 3 little pairs of tits floating
Oh my
around.
God, there are 3 sets of tits
Fucking
on
hilarious.
this thing. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Fucking hilarious. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, so Yeehaw is a local brewery, but this apparently was produced out of their Greenville facility, which I don't know why they need to specify that, but they did. But yes, it does have indeed 3 pairs of tits on the can.
I want to even know now. I want to.
Now, you know what? I also got to ask what this is about right here, which is what?
Oh,
why does it have a little cut on the knee?
The cut on the knee. Hold on. Now you're really digging deep. Hold on. Now I gotta go look. Oh, that's just the knee. Well, wait a minute. No, that's just knee art. Though it is kind of funny that'd be a weird spot for what you're talking about. I thought you were gonna lean in on the little dingus on the top of the letter G. But no, that's just a font thing. But
the cut on the knee of the graphic.
I know what you're talking about. But that's just the kneecap being highlighted.
I don't think
it's supposed to be a bruise, David.
You could have done that in black. You could have done that in anything. That definitely. No.
I don't know. I will put that one in the category of the designer maybe didn't think it through, probably didn't mean to do it. Kind of like when I did the Tennessee Democratic
I don't
Party
know. There's tits
fundraiser.
on the lampshade. I kind of.
That's got to be intentional. But like, I mean, I made a giant blue phallus as a major trait of a Democratic Party fundraiser invitation on accident once, and it involved Bill Clinton speaking. So, I mean, shit happens.
So I gotta say, as a lager goes, this has got a lot. It's got a lot of fruit flavor. The cranberry definitely shines through. It's not quite a sour, mostly because the cranberry sour doesn't happen until the very end. But it finishes rather sweet. The sour note happens and then it cuts out and then it ends kind of sweet.
Okay.
The mouthfeel on it, however, is a little odd. It's super creamy.
Really? I wasn't expecting that.
Neither was I. It's super like it's almost like a creamy mouthfeel. It does not like you get carbonation at the front, and then it just dissipates really quickly to create a really creamy mouthfeel.
It's listing here as a light lager as well, and it is. I mean, it's 5.4%, so it's not exactly beefy. Maybe that's part of it.
No, there's a creaminess to it. There is and maybe it's the result of maybe they added lactose to it. I don't know.
I kind of doubt that.
No.
Tart and festive is the general vibe of
No
reviewers.
lactose. Maybe
Is it? Does it work in the holiday realm? Because lager tends to be such a warmer weather vibe. Does what they've done to it make it work as a Christmas beer? That's the big question for me.
Yes, it does. It does actually make it work as a Christmas beer. I could definitely qualify this. And again, we have an entire Christmas section. I have Christmas beers saved up for next week.
Since it's before Christmas, we're gonna do Christmas beers.
I have one old favorite from last year, which I'm gonna have on, but I have a couple of other interesting ones that I haven't had before.
I'm gonna poke around. I'm gonna check Founders and see what they're doing that's Christmas oriented. And
you want to know what I found out was the most popular Scotch ale in Nashville the other day?
What was it?
Because I poked around because I'm like, okay, I wanted a Scotch ale for my taps, and there is a Scotch ale. There's a couple of Scotch ales here in Nashville that work, but I can't get them on distro because someone's brewery is holding off the kegs. But old Dirty Bastard,
okay,
from Founders, and obviously Oscar Blues, their old chub. But I was amazed that Dirty Bastard was the a popular, at least in the Scotch ale category, because that's what I was looking for. I'm like, hey, I sell a lot of whiskey. Scotch ale seems like an easy sell off that bat, and I'm still looking for that. But apparently I have to make a trek down to Black Abbey and be like, give me your fucking Irish goodbye, or I swear to God, I'm one of you is getting cut before I leave.
All right, let's dig into this last topic. The last one for us is pretty straightforward and simple. It's a place that we've often been. We're seeing a bunch of misinformation and whining and butthurt over the Brittany Griner release. And the real issue here for the conservative wanker crowd is Paul Whelan. So to give a brief summary, first of all, I didn't know the fucker was from Michigan. I found that out, which explains a whole lot about why I hear a lot of the butthurt around here. So this fucking guy, first of all, he was an import. He was Canadian, moved to Michigan, not real far. He got into the Marines, but not necessarily in a rah fight people and blow shit up capacity, but more of an intel capacity. He was dishonorably discharged from the Marines for a variety of fucking bad shit. Not like killing rando kids in the street kind of bad, but like various icky corruption, bad handling of information, and dishonesty kinds of reasons. Theft. And so fucker is dishonorably discharged, so no one should give a shit. In fact, the media really needs to quit calling him former Marine, ex-Marine, or Marine, and just call him discharged Marine or dishonorably discharged Marine, because people hear Marine wheeling and he's not and everybody's like, oh no, that's so bad. They snatched somebody off the battlefield. No, he had worked in the private sector and was doing private sector.
I want to point out
spy shit and got fucking caught.
I want to point out that here's the deal. He was not. So here's part of Whelan's story is so he is a discount fucking security guard basically in the Marine Corps. He isn't even a proper military police. Then he gets dishonorably discharged after he steals $10,000 from the post's safe. Not all at once. So that makes me think that, like, hey, you were either buying whores or getting drunk. Honestly, I don't steal to get drunk, so I can't appreciate either of those. So he's stealing money from the post, which gets him dishonorably discharged. And then all of a sudden, he's a cybersecurity expert with a security clearance.
Here's the let me read down the highlights because they're just really funny. So first of all, I forgot to mention that he was a cop in Chelsea, Michigan. So and a sheriff's deputy. So like he checks a whole bunch of these fucking flag fluffing fucking just yeah. He checks a bunch of boxes for the white nationalist fucking dickholes. That's why they're obsessed with him. So cop in Chelsea, Michigan, sheriff's deputy in Washtenaw County. Police said that he worked in lesser roles as a part-time officer, and the sheriff reported no record of his employment. I mean, this guy is just a walking scam, and everybody wants to be all butthurt that he's still locked up by a walking scam government with a walking scam leader in a walking scam country. I mean, they all fucking deserve each other. So he was an IT manager for Kelly Services staffing company. Enlisted in the Marine Corps in '94. Took military leave from Kelly Services to serve, including service in Iraq. He was Staff Sergeant, Marine Air Control Group 38, working as administrative clerk and administrative chief. So all these people's little fantasies of him running around, you know, blowing shit up and being a tough guy. No. After a court-martial conviction in 2008, multiple counts related to arson, sentenced to 60 days restriction, reduction in pay grade, and a bad conduct discharge. The specific charges included attempted larceny, 3 specifications of dereliction of duty, making a false official statement, wrongfully using another social security number. I mean, social security fraud. 10 specifications of making and uttering checks without having sufficient funds. Uttering? That's weird. in his account for payment. When arrested in Russia, he was the director of global security and investigations for Borg Warner, an international auto parts manufacturer based in Michigan. I mean, it starts to sound like the plot of a comedy.
It really does.
It starts to sound like Spies Like Us sequel. Like these Borg Warner clowns are like, we need operatives to be able to do auto parts stuff in global security in Russia, which is just fucking crazy. That sounds like a front. That sounds like a tomato company in fucking Spies Like Us. And so he's arrested there. He had traveled to Russia several times, maintained an intermittent presence in Russia, studied Russian and communicated online. Whelan supported Donald Trump. Following Trump's victory, posted in Russian, President Trump onward. I mean, what the fuck? I don't care if this motherfucker ever gets out.
No, I mean, the problem is
no
this.
red-blooded American should, but the right has forgotten who the enemies are. So
this guy was designed as as I explained to you, as a throwaway, right?
It very much seems. That's why it feels Spies Like Us to me.
Right. This guy was designed by the CIA as gather intelligence. It's like
he's a chump.
What?
He's a lifetime chump.
I mean, it's like whatever the
chump.
Whatever the hot girl was a few years ago when we did our big Russian spy sting, whatever her name was.
Yeah.
And again, she was kind of a chump, right? It's like, what are you doing? Are you actually burrowing into anything? No, you're not. You're actually just a chump. A lot of these Russian spies that we rolled up were just chumps. And this guy was a chump. And part of the problem that conservatives have an issue dealing with is that we can't trade for him because he was found guilty of espionage. Like, Griner was guilty of
reefer madness.
Maybe reefer madness. I would argue that given the timing and everything else, this is a woman who has been back and forth to Russia many times. The likelihood,
a political prisoner for the convenience of the moment.
The likelihood that she had cannabis on her at the time, for someone who's been back and forth to Russia that many times and knows the laws in Russia, be like, oh, I just forgot my cannabis oil in my bag. Oh,
you feel like it was a plant.
Oh yeah, that feels like a plant.
It does
a lot.
You're right. Yeah.
Because again, like, one of these things does not belong. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Even if you take it at face value, even if what she says, oh, I forgot my. Okay, fine. It's still some pearl clutchy reefer madness fucking bullshit from the very top of Mother Russia.
Well, even then, you just deny them entry.
I mostly mean Putin's titties.
You just deny them entry. You just turn them the fuck around.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what everyone else does. Be like, hey, by the way, we're seizing this and we're turning you the fuck around. You don't imprison them.
Yeah, unless you want to score some kind of points. And in Putin's Russia, trying to suck ass to all the white nationalist QAnon fucking pieces of shit that seem to think he's some kind of world hero, what better thing to do than imprison the freakishly tall black lesbian lady?
And return her to, like, one of the things I've already heard is her wife, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, mother. So she's married in a committed relationship with another woman.
Okay.
And that makes you mad. One of the things that pisses me off about this is, like, what did you think that you were going to somehow score with either Brittany Griner or her wife? Which, first of all, no offense to Brittany Griner, Not my speed. I don't know.
Right.
For those of you who are of the heterosexual disposition, but if you are looking at Brittany Griner as a sex symbol, as a heterosexual, I have bad news for you. You might not be of the disposition that you thought you were.
Well, I mean, I think that short-circuits these motherfuckers in a special way. I think that they can't process, like, all the lesbians in porn are hot, and so they don't know how to process this person, and they've just freakified her, and that's not cool. But I think that's part of it. I think these she checks all the boxes. She checks all of the butthurt resentment boxes for these motherfuckers, and it's really fascinating to see the theater combined with ignorance from this butthurt march. Honestly, I think that the net equation here is the same, because Whelan is such a fucking loser that having him included in a 2-for-1 is the same value as Griner by herself. He has no value.
I honestly don't believe that he does.
He has no value. Yes, he has value to his family. Yes, it sucks to be them. Yes, but he has no international value. He wouldn't have been involved. Like you said, he was recruited as a chump. He wouldn't have been involved if he had international value. Honestly, if they get him back, the best thing that could happen is they do make a fucking sequel to Spies Like Us. And it tells this story.
I mean, and the thing is, like, he's a cutout. He was designed as from the beginning as, well, the worst we can lose is this.
Good point.
I mean, that's what he was designed as. I'm like, he dishonorably discharged.
Whelan, sir. Oh.
Right?
Good call, Johnson. Some motherfucker suggested that in a meeting one day and got a promotion for it.
Right? I mean, I hate to be bad on this guy, but like, even at that, like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, you were. There's levels of fuck up, and believe me, I've experienced some of these levels of fuck up. But you, sir, have experienced a variety of levels of fuck up that most Americans, most of humanity, has never really experienced. Which is, one, you left Canada, so let's call that fuck up number one. Fuck up number two, you joined the Marine Corps after leaving Canada.
You left Canada and you became a small town Michigan cop. That's fuck up number two.
Oh, okay. So you left Canada to become a
is you probably lied about being a sheriff.
Yeah. And then you became a Marine, and then you stole from the fucking Marine Corps, and then you were so much of a fuck up that the CIA looked at you and they said, yeah, we can use this.
That's our boy right there. This guy will think he's a hero. We're just going to run him through the centrifuge and drop him in the woods and ask him what a dick for.
Yeah. And we dropped him in the middle of Russia just to see what we could suss out from random ass shit. And you managed in your fucked upness to trip off the Federal Security Bureau. Congratulations. Actually, I always think that the CIA was like, we have a highly sensitive operation going on. How do we distract the FSB? Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah, we need a decoy. Send the decoy. It's oh god.
Now they're like, No.
Let's take score for a second, David, because this is my favorite part of this, and then we're going to wrap it up. But
Yeah.
if you take score, the right, most of the right, not all of it, but most of it, definitely the vocal part. So in their scoreboard, an accomplished athletic sports figure is of a person of color that is a sports figure and is a person of two diverse aspects, being a lesbian and black, three marginalized population segments: female, black, lesbian. Sports, I would say, sports hero in her particular realm. She's a legendary piece of the female basketball equation. Is worthless to them, and she knelt. Oh, she knelt for the fucking national anthem.
That
they're all bent out of shape. Like, they brought back the kneeler. And
did they do that?
They've been throwing a little bit of a fit about she didn't even stand for the anthem. And so, in their eyes, an American who feels so strongly about the civil rights concerns of this country that they will passively, peacefully resist during a nationalist exercise, not a patriotic event, but a nationalist exercise known as the fucking national anthem being played at goddamn commercial, private fucking sports events. That is less of an American to them than a dishonorably discharged lying thief.
And a Canadian.
Happened to be a Marine office nerd.
And a Canadian.
And technically a Canadian, right. That is how these fucking people keep score. That is how 30-something% of this country thinks.
I mean, this guy is the definition of a loser who fell upwards multiple times.
This guy actually fell up the stairs. And Biden knows what falling up the stairs is like and doesn't have any mercy for it.
See, by the way, hey, conservatives, yes, we will make fun of our... the difference between you and us is we will make fun of our leaders.
We know when.
All the goddamn time.
We know when to admit that it's time to make fun of the old man. That's the deal. Oh boy! It's great to see everybody. It's great to see you. It's great, of course, to have had what turns out to be a minor heart question in my life. So we're gonna wrap it up. We've been running a little long tonight, partly because we're playing catch up. We didn't get to do this last week, so we got long-winded. But thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for throwing comments and questions our way and putting up with our bullshit. Next week, like we said, we'll do some Christmas beers. We'll probably talk about things that attach well to the holiday. Maybe I'll get a couple of greatest hits clips together of some of the fun shit I dropped at the city commission. All I can tell you is my favorite commissioner to pick on, John O'Connor, figured out that I put all red bows in front of everybody, but I put a black one in front of him. And he actually identified it out loud. And it was funny. So I'm going to be bringing him a Christmas card to his business tomorrow, and I'm sticking his black bow on the envelope. I'm going to ask him if he'd like to have a drink next year, kick off the year, and actually come to the table. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, folks, thanks again for joining us. I have been Lucas, and that has been David. And as always, this is the time of night when we say good night,
good evening,
and
good luck.